the presentation of Zaha's building in Dubai. And while we wait for Christos, and normally we allow 5 minutes for people to join as attendees before starting formally. This is obviously Zaha's building in Baku, and I do hope that you get the chance to visit a Zaha building yourself. And I've been to see several in London, the Aquatic Centre, this one in Baku, in Beijing as well, in Korea, because experiencing the space is obviously something quite special. We're going to see some beautiful images today, but I hope you can also go visit the Mele Hotel later this year, because parts of it will be open to the public. So this is the Baku building, and showing really how special a Zaha created space can be, and really unique within architecture. And I've also included here, Christos is going to also talk about, Christos worked with Zaha a long time, for several decades. And I've included here some sketches. When I teach a few days a week with Herit Watt, and I always show the students some Zaha sketches, so they understand that sometimes an architect sketch can be abstract, like a doodle, but it doesn't form the ultimate architecture. And Zaha, if people don't know as well, she was a very accomplished and skilled, famous painter, really, before the turn of the millennium. And her work was very inspired by some Russian constructivists and some abstraction, but she has a very beautiful series of paintings. I think you can also see informs her work. And I think Christos is going to show some other projects, and you can, I think from when we had our practice, I could see this kind of link from you see the kind of the thinking coming out from whether it's sketches or painting through the design process, and then ultimately the building. And what's been great to see is the practice have so many buildings built over the last 20 years, and so accelerating. So yeah, these are a mixture, but these are all quite old drawings and paintings, at least 10, 15 years old.
Yeah, hi everyone. I don't know if you can hear me. Hello?
I can hear you okay.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me here today. It's very nice to be here. It's also very nice to see Andy showing some of these old drawings that Zaha and the studio have been producing. I must say that one of my favorites is the blue painting that you had on your screen just before, which I think shows so many things of what and how the the idea of architecture or the design of how a building, but also looking at the city as a kind of a more kind of set of architectures can come together to create new living conditions and allow us to free up ourselves from a number of things and really look into the future and begin to think how we can form our own kind of destiny in a way. And in many ways, seeing those drawings today kind of made me kind of momentarily reminisce into all this stuff that first and foremost Zaha has kind of offered to this world, and how much we've learned and how much we've kind of departed from those initial sketches and where we actually are today, because we've had the chance to stand on the backs of some real giants in the architecture field, and I think it's quite incredible. Thank you for having me here today. Again, I just wanted to say that in this kind of COVID climate, there is a kind of an adaptation to these new conditions, and we all don't know what these new conditions are yet, but we are kind of finding them out every day, I think. And what's interesting is that together with the restrictions, there is obviously also some opportunities that are coming up. One of which is the fact that I can now speak to all of you and to be here with everyone, and also sit virtually in the atrium of the Opus, which I very kind of easily put on my screen behind. But actually, I came to the office today I came to the office because it's all empty, and I felt it was more quiet here and more appropriate to have this meeting. So yeah, I am you know,
you
sitting.
ready to
Yeah,
go?
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. I just wanted to give you a bit of a view of my desk and of my office here. I don't know if you can see a lot, but this is the model of the Opus sitting right here behind me. That's why I wanted to show this. And this little model was a little resin model that we did many years ago when we were experimenting with resin, and we thought the Opus would be easy enough to cast in it without making a mistake. And actually this model was one of the first resin models that we've done, and it actually kind of still looks quite good and amazing. So yeah, I'm ready to start. I am very happy to talk to you about this project, which started in 2005 when Mr. Amjad came to the office to meet Zaha and I, and you know, with a request to design a building in Business Bay in Dubai. And this is what we can talk about today. I think I need to press a button here to share a screen, which I will do right away. And off we go. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we see PowerPoint. Can see PowerPoint there.
Yeah, we could see it.
Yeah, I think yeah, Alois and myself will say something if we spot any problem, but we should be. We're seeing with your notes right now, actually.
Okay, so we should try to make it
Full screen.
Full screen. This was supposed to be the full screen, unfortunately. Is this working? No, okay, I have a different way. Maybe this is the way. Is that better?
No, well, we're seeing your notes on next slide.
Okay, so this is it.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, now it's better.
Sometimes these video conferencing softwares give us more opportunities and utility than we need. Okay, so yeah, so the Opus started one day when Mr. Abjad, president and CEO of Omniad Properties, came to our office in 2005 and asked us to look into this plot he had in Dubai and whether we wanted to develop it. And it was an interesting time, because at that point you have to imagine that the Business Bay had no substance whatsoever. So when Vincent and I, one of my project architects, went there, and I were looking at the iPad with the Google Maps to try to find out where this place was in the desert. There was no creek, there was no buildings around. It was all at the very beginning, very kind of almost like pioneering times. And this project came out of that. And I want to keep that as a point for as the conversation progresses, we can discuss a little bit how you know, the creation of cities and the making of architecture in this context. So unfortunately, Zaha is not with us anymore. But I do always look at her photo with you know, with a lot of thoughtfulness and reflection about what my experience with her was, and how much of a visionary this woman actually was, and how much knowledge and passion she brought with her in architecture. Not every day was amazing, inspiring, and whatever else. There was a lot of, you know, lot of challenges and a lot of conditions to be met. But what I always appreciated from her is that she always found a way to quickly overcome certain apparent obstacles, whichever those were, with her creativity, and also she was a great transformer. I would say I would call her that. I think she would take something and really transform it and push it into a kind of new existence. She had that incredible skill. So yeah, may she rest in peace. I think she's left behind her a huge legacy of beautiful buildings, and we try to maintain that standard and that level, because I do feel that she's left a huge kind of legacy and heritage behind her. The office is now working in almost all continents. This map is old, so we're also kind of have some projects in Australia now. Most of our work nowadays is in China and in the Middle East, some of it in Russia. And we also have quite a lot of projects in Europe and so on. So the practice have been dealing with the world for quite some time now. And we occasionally set up regional offices, whether in Beijing or in Shenzhen or in Dubai and Hong Kong, etc., Rome, to help us to deliver some of the work we do. So, of course, I don't want to speak about us and about ZHA today too much, but that only and I'm showing these images of all these different buildings that we managed to pull off over the years. And I remember each and every one of them, believe it or not, and I participated in quite a few of them. But I think what has been interesting is that all of these buildings began happening, with the exception of Vitra, that sits up here somewhere. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but maybe I can try. So with the exception of Vitra that sits here, and that was one of Zaha's first projects, the IBA in Berlin, which was a housing project, the BMW building in Leipzig, in Scotland here, the Transport Museum, the Cincinnati Rosenthal Contemporary Art Center, the Aquatic Center, the Dominion Tower, one of my own, finished in Moscow. Also one project I participated in Salerno, the ferry terminal, the ski lift terminals here, the school in Brixton, Dongdaemun Center in Korea. And what are all these buildings? The Baku project that Andy was showing earlier, and the Maxi, of course. And also somewhere here should be also the Fenno Science Center, which was one of my first, and also other projects, many other projects here. And the point of all of this is that each one of these buildings has a unique take. They're almost like, they're not almost like, they are unique pieces of architecture. There is no other building that looks, remotely similar to these. And I think this is actually one of the best values that Zaha managed to instill in the work of the office, that every building is unique and every building is special, and it has special conditions and special moments through which it can kind of manifest and become designed and realized. So talking more regionally now and more in the Middle East, this is the Sheikh Zayed Bridge. This is one of the first projects that I've designed together with Graham Maudlin, who was one of our senior architects here. And this bridge was basically won as a commissioning competition in 2008. And then the client came back with a series of comments. They've asked us to look at the design more. And I remember characteristically, the client came back and said, we want a bridge that allows the driver to experience the beauty of driving on a bridge. And we thought, that's an amazing brief. I mean, we do really need to do something something wonderful here. And we came up with this, which is a bridge that essentially has its bearing form and its structure as a series of arches that move from within the two decks to without the two decks, and allows it to kind of have this kind of special form, like a leap over the water. So these are some of our initial drawings here in the characteristic ZHA style. And also some drawings showing the structure here, showing the form of these arches, basically 3 arches, each one of a different shape and size, but they basically bring together a kind of a bearing form that allows this 400-meter long bridge to hop over the water and allow for a very kind of sculptural form to do all the things that this structure was meant to do. So we were very pleased with the result, and in many cases, you know, when we were studying these kind of very massive pylons where the 2 arches were coming together here at the base, I remember having a discussion with Zaha one time and said, these rooms are so big, we can probably put programming there and we can inhabit the structure in a way that hasn't been done before. And she often spoke about this in her lectures and presentations. Later on, out of something like this also came the kind of idea of inhabiting the cones in the Fenno Science Center, which was you know, a continuation in some way and a kind of a paraphrasing of this particular you know, experience that we had here. And yeah, the point of this structure is that by moving in and out of the decking, it allows us to open up certain points which can be through which you know, you can observe the water below, but at the same time it opens up different views to the driver as you're driving through it. So I don't know if you've driven onto this. It's not very far from Dubai, and it's only about an hour and a half away. But I think through these, you can begin to experience, you know, the approach into Abu Dhabi from kind of different points of view. It was one of our first kind of large engineering projects, and you know, I think it took about 10 or 12 years to build this bridge. But you can see the amount of skill and expertise that comes out of something like this into a piece of structure and architecture that that allows for a very kind of a unique and also quite an innovative approach to bridge building. On another note, and many years later, this is 2016, Omniad Properties invited us to develop a project for a high-rise building in DIFC. And I wanted to show this today. We've done a lot of projects in the Middle East. I didn't want to stand on all of them. I want to spend more time discussing the Opus itself. But this was a scheme that we've done not very long after Zaha unfortunately had passed away. So we felt, you know, that this was a project that was capturing that time and that feeling in the company, and how kind of everybody was of course devastated and very thoughtful at the time. So it's part of that moment in time. So that's why I wanted to show it. So there is a sense that there is something incomplete, if you like. You know, there is a sense that still things keep going on, and of course, you know, always we try to include beautiful spaces inside the buildings, inside our buildings, beautiful public atrium in this case that helps to unite the different aspects of the proposition. And here we come to the Opus finally, not very far from that from the DIFC side, in the heart of the business bay. At some point, you know, in this site here, after we started working on the Opus, we were also speaking to Dubai Properties about doing a dancing tower in this area here, a kind of a high-rise building composed of three separate towers. This is the creek, of course, as you know, and the Opus sits on that side there. So it's in a very prominent location compared to the Burj Khalifa, which is an incredible monument in the urban fabric of Dubai. And what we wanted to do was basically to use the shape and the form of the Opus to use it almost like a panopticon, a place, kind of a device that allows you to look all around through the building and through the form of it to be able to focus on particular points. So yeah, this is the plan of the Opus. The site is about, if I remember correctly, about 120 meters long by 100 meters deep. The Burj Khalifa is here. And of course, nowadays that the building is finished, it sits, by itself in the middle of town, and of course, it is quite interesting to see it in this way, because I think somehow it kind of places it in a way that it kind of feels overlooked by all the other buildings around, and of course its form and color also begin to change. I will show you a little bit later on how its form and color changes as the sky changes here in Dubai as well. But it's basically a building that is one of the most cubistic kind of projects that we've done. We wanted to have something that is more austere and more simple in its way. But the idea started actually from the master planners for this particular site were Halcrow, and what they were actually proposing is that the buildings in this territory would have a kind of a podium of 4 or 5 or 6 stories, and then the building would be sitting on top of the podium. This is a very common theme in Dubai, as you know. So the podium would be used for car parking and services, plant rooms and so on, and then the building would sit freely on top. Well, the side of the Opus was supposed to be 2 towers. They were supposed to be also a little bit taller. The Opus is 20 stories high, and the master planning allowance was, the planning allowance was for a 30-story building, if I remember correctly. And it was supposed to be 2 towers. So originally when we started looking at this, the idea was that this would have been a kind of a twin tower building. But instead, what we ended up doing is flipping this planning condition to its head. We thought about it more, and we thought that, adding a podium to these buildings usually destroys the streetscape, and not destroys it, but it kind of sets the building back from the streetscape. The entrances become hard to find, and the buildings are not so accessible anymore. So we felt that if we were going to invigorate the public and the street life in Dubai, it was important that we do away with the podium. And actually, by removing the podium, it allowed us also to lift the volume of the building up. And through that process, we also came to the point where, rather than thinking about the building as a series of 2 towers, we thought about unifying it into one cube, and then using a void to carve out from this cube the space which was essentially the distance between 2 buildings, and forming it into a one singular volume. The idea of these, and also had some pretty direct repercussions, one of which was that we would have a bridge connecting the 2 towers together, and that bridge would also give us a certain amount of shading from the sun inside the void, and at the same time by what we've also decided to do is, rather than going the full 36 stories high, we decided to reduce the height of the building to about 20 stories, and inflate the volume to the edges of the site so that it can become lower and wider as a way to increase the efficiency of the building inside, but also the flexibility within the floor plates. And in one of the floors later, I will show you this. So working with a carving exercise and the fusing exercise, we developed this design as a way to bring all the activities that OmniAd wanted to bring in this building together. And in many ways, this also became, one of those rare pioneering buildings where you begin to see a new kind of urbanism emerging, because I think this bridge that connects now the two towers, it has become more common over the years, but it also begins to allude in a kind of a three-dimensional urbanism where buildings are not just mere extrusions from a plot of land, but they begin to kind of interrelate in fascinating new ways, given certain opportunities and conditions. So as the project develops, we were also thinking about using some additional indentations and carving on the facade. This later became the friezing pattern that we have on the building. And also at nighttime, which was the other aspect of the building that we wanted to bring through, to have an image that is radically different than that which you see during the day. So at nighttime, the void, which is the emptiness, that does not exist, becomes very evident and emphasized during the night. From a structural standpoint, the Opus was challenging in some ways and very normative in others, in the sense that, it's a big building. It appears maybe smaller than what it is, but it has about 100,000 square meters of above ground areas and a kind of a 6-story basement for about 1,000 cars, which is never visible, of course. And originally, this is a plan of a section of the original design, when on the lower levels we were supposed to have a retail zone, which was meant to attract people for shopping and so on. And then the rest of the tower was offices. Later on, this, as you know now, transformed into a hotel. I will get into that a little bit later on. But what you can see here is that you have a structure of a kind of a regular tower, except there is some points of architectural intensification that are beginning to happen. First of all is the bridge, and the bridge is long enough and deep enough that it becomes the livable component of the building. So there is now, they were meant to be offices, and now there are apartments on this upper level. The lower point of intensification is the point where we have the main lobby. And the main characteristic of this lobby is that from here you could see out through this glass roof and underneath into the volume of the void. And of course, the idea of floating, in a way, quote unquote, floating this building off of the ground, meaning setting it back and concealing how it lands in the ground, which is a very interesting moment architecturally, where the ground condition gets kind of articulated, was all due to the fact that we have these kind of heavy pylons here that allow us to move the external columns of the building back a bay and allow us to create this overhang underneath the ground floor. There is also some other interesting moments where the structure of the building has been always set back by about 1.5 meters, that allows us to keep the facade very clean. But at the same time, on the interior of in the void areas, these columns also bend a little bit and adapt to the shape and the form of this building. So, we ended up with a structural model that was very rational and very, very kind of feasible in that way. That the Opus has 2 cores inside. You can see them here, 2 cores of lifts and staircases and shafts on either side. So now we call this Tower A and Tower B, and the void in the middle. And then, you know, the model that I showed you behind me a little bit earlier. So we were testing, I mean, when the process in our office is going through to design a building, we're testing and experimenting on all different levels. In a way, it's an opportunity to expand our thinking through the making of some of these projects, but also at the same time to find those unique characteristics that we want to bring into these projects. And sometimes these models, these architectural models, become the medium through which we explore certain aesthetic qualities of our projects. Of course, a project is not only aesthetics, it's not only art, it's also a lot of technique and technicality going into it. So we look at issues of structure, we look at issues of spatial organization, and this is a take on the project where we got the instruction to redesign the lower level and include a hotel. So this area here, the lower levels now are becoming the first kind of design approaches to turning this into the Melia Hotel in the Opus. And the client wanted really to, after the 2008 crisis, they came back, they had a new kind of financing opportunity, and they wanted to find a way to make use of what we had already there. So I should also say that thanks to the perseverance of the client and also the people who were working on this project and ourselves, we managed. This is probably one of the few pre-2008 projects that was actually completed fully, because during that crisis a lot of projects got cancelled in Dubai. But this I always felt it was a testament to the uniqueness of this design, and also its kind of efficiency and feasibility. So when the instruction came through, the client wanted to maintain that most of this building would remain as offices, but they wanted to transform the ground floor into a hotel, a boutique hotel, and then a series of luxury serviced apartments at the very top. And we started looking into these propositions and how it could be, in a way, organized, looking how that three-dimensional volume could now be activated in different times of the day and the night. So this is one of our simpler, I should say, time programming charts explaining how different parts and different zones of the building can work in different times. The plans, as they are evolving, I think these are plans that we ended up redesigning later on, but we wanted to reinstigate the idea of a big lobby in the middle as a space for exhibition and movement of people. In this case, you can see some of the slides of how the building used to be when it was a kind of a retail area in the original times. With people movers on the different floors. And then a slide here showing how the hotel would take place inside the building, which is actually how the building ended up being designed and produced in the end. So the first 3 or 4 floors of the building become hotel rooms. So as the building is developed, you can begin to also recognize here on the skin of the facade a very peculiar kind of friting pattern, which almost becomes a kind of a characteristic of this particular project. We wanted the friting to not only be a kind of a visual signifier, but also to, in a way, to use the reflectivity of those frits to highlight certain areas, but to also use it as a way to mitigate some of the solar gain on the building. And in a closer up view, and this is of course a kind of a digital representation of a rendering, you can begin to see how those stripes begin to fade in and out of focus, allowing the building to have areas where it's more transparent and areas where it becomes much more reflective. So how did this process start? Well, originally we were thinking of developing a kind of a veil, fritting as a veil over the building, and we're looking into these different patterns. Some are more intricate than others. Some of them were more dense, becoming much sparser and lighter. We looked into some other graphic techniques that we were experimenting with at that point, and effectively we're beginning to look how to build this facade and how to make this work. So one of the first drawings that I wanted to do here was to try to look at the whole slab to glass connection in a statistical way, and to begin to trace over what I call an X-ray drawing through all these different conditions, and to try to understand how many different points of incidence we have between the slab, which is this red line here, and the different types of facade where the building would connect. So we came up with this kind of very beautiful drawing and diagram that statistically shows basically that most of our facade conditions belong in this kind of zone here. And in some very exceptional cases, we have very kind of radical points of incidence where we needed some special details to adjust it and to clip it onto the core of the building. The reason for that, of course, was that this facade was a complex glass skin, and moving away from the sculpting and all the aesthetics, you also have to think about how to rationalize this facade, how to make it buildable. So we entered a kind of a period in the design when we were looking how to best rationalize this part of the facade, both the flat parts, but also the freeform parts inside. So, on the outer facade was that we had the fritting, we had regular panels, the columns were set back, as you can see also in this rendering here. The columns are always set back from the facade, and that allows us, this setting back allows us to have uninterrupted facade throughout. So whether you have cubicle offices or whether you have open plan offices, this gives the opportunity to be able to have wide open views toward the outside. And this is kind of an approach that we like very much. Of course, the building looks as much outside as much as it looks onto itself. So here you can begin to observe what is happening across the void and in other offices and so on. And of course, this whole exercise requires quite a bit of precision. So this is here a drawing that shows this fritting pattern and how it got applied. These are basically the four facades of the Opus being unfolded one against each other. So you can begin to see some relative continuities. You can see some interruptions in the scheme and in the skins, but altogether this kind of void here gives always it's given a highlight, and then the lines that are running through it, these creases, all run through the edges of the building, so they have a kind of a dynamic continuity from one side of the facade to the other. And what did we want to achieve with this? To speak about the flat facade first. These are two of the guys who worked with me in the beginning, Vincent and Fivos. And in this point here, they are looking at the mock-up of the glass with this kind of epichrome fritting pattern, where the mirror of the fritting on the one side becomes almost like a shaded part of the facade on the other, and that helps to mitigate the intrusion of light inside the building. But at the same time, it does something else in terms of an aesthetic effect. It begins to allow one to look at the building as a series of fluid, almost liquid transparencies, versus other areas where the fritting is so dense that you begin to see outside. So the facade becomes an interface where reflection and transparency coexist. And in that sense, I think it becomes an interesting eye into the surrounding environment. On the other hand, the void facade, which of course was a more complex object to resolve, was something that was based on certain criteria. So the way we dealt with this was we basically wanted to achieve certain criteria for its design criteria for its design. And there is, of course, many different things to look at here. First of all, you know, dark glass reflects equally well as lighter glass, and even more so because all the reflections on its skin needed to be looked at particularly to make sure that we retain a certain amount of smoothness. So this drawing is actually a test and an experiment we did to be able to check how the faceting of the glasses would allow us to retain a certain amount of smoothness, so that we are both smooth but also rational in the way we're approaching this facade scheme. And of course, here we have flat, single curved and double curved pieces. The cost for double curved pieces is significantly more than regular glass, and therefore, and especially at the time when we started this process. So what we wanted to do was look at these percentages statistically, and to reduce the amount of double curved glass and leave space for geometrical configurations to allow us to do as much of this free form void with flat paneling as much as possible. So the way we approached this was we began to look at photorealistic ray tracing diagrams that we tested on very kind of advanced software such as CATIA and Rhino and 3D Max, and we did find in that process that in order to build this kind of void, we could begin to bend or to facet flat pieces of glass by about 2 degrees, 2.2 degrees in the inner direction and 1.5 degrees in the outer direction, so that we can get an optically feasible sense of transition and smoothness and continuity. And of course, we've tested that in a lot of physical models as well. We worked with the facade companies to be able to develop this kind of system where you can have bending on both sides to be able to achieve these kind of phenomenal curvatures. And I think in the end, with this kind of minuscule angular transitions, we managed to get quite an interesting result. But how did we get to that point in the first place was, of course, a matter of analyzing the glass and analyzing the structure. This piece is basically the roof of the building. This is over the atrium. And in order to be able to enable the vision of somebody, of a guest that is standing in here, to be maintained as uninterrupted as possible when looking up, we decided to, rather than having a uniform grid, we decided to design a heavier primary structure, which had much bigger openings between the steel members. That was 9 by 9 meter grid, and within that, to create a much thinner layer of glass frames. So you can see the 3 by 3 pattern here, glass frames that were able to sit on, take support on the primary structural system and then be applied onto it, so that we can have much more visibility looking through this glass facade. So these are some of the images while the steel structure and the facade are being laid and constructed. And you can begin to see that the steel tubes applied here were basically designed like this, so that it's easier to bend and to rotate from one angle to the other as you're applying the glasses on top of this. And this is the construction site, the 2 cores. The basement in this case is already built. This is 6 meters, 6 floors below this level is the basement. And as you can see here, this is where we were more or less after the 2008 crisis. So when we started building again, the building moved up very quickly. You can begin to see here the structure and also the transfer columns here that create the podium, but also the undulating columns that form the void of the building in between. The glass is starting to be applied here. This is, again, of course, a construction image. And you can see how the buildings of the surrounding begin to be reflected within it. But at the same time, you can still see through these areas of the building here. And that was very important for us because we wanted to be able to see both of these worlds at once, the interior and the exterior. The setting back of the columns and of course, creating these empty spaces here allows for much higher degree of flexibility in this building, in the sense of organizing furniture and also subdividing the units inside and so on. So as the building is progressing, we've also spent time working on the interior of the atrium. So here the glass facade, as you can see, is finished, and you can see in these drawings here how that decision to create the primary and secondary structure really emphasizes and allows the eye to move to the background and to begin to see the kind of gravitas of that bridge of the building, of the volume above. This is the atrium in its framing stage, and you can begin to see and recognize these balconies of the white flower that begin to take shape and form inside here. And the design was this one. So basically, we wanted to open up the atrium and undulate the edges of the surrounding and create a really beautiful and harmonious white space that would be the jewel of this kind of building. And of course, the key feature here is this kind of the bouquet of flowers, these lilies that are at the same time a kind of a set of balconies that can be used for, cafes and also for people to stand and overlook the movement, etc. But at this point, the hotel is more or less designed, and what you can see here is that we tried to kind of produce a design that was speaking the kind of the language of a building that is set in the Arabic world. So it has certain hues and moments where you can begin to see this kind of pointy arches that are both parametrically designed, but at the same time they have a certain sense of the Arabic tradition within them. And of course the pots that you see here, these are seating areas that were designed. We call these ottomans, and they are based on traditional kind of seating elements in Arabic architecture, with clad in carpet and also very low seating, so that you can sit and feel comfortable on them. And this became part of the fit out of the hotel reception area. So this is the Opus as it's been finished nowadays. Some beautiful pictures by Lorian Kinitoyu showing how the building is standing today. Going back into the future, these are some of the earlier images of the atrium. Here we also had an idea at some point to put a chandelier made of glass balls to decorate the whole space, but in the end we decided to make it simpler and keep it out. The swimming pool and the freeding of the facade. And coming into the floors and into the building, you can begin to see here one of our designs for the corridor wall. So while going from the white, the pristine, the marble kind of atrium, as you come into the rooms, the sense of materiality changes. It becomes warmer, softer, and begins to build up in intimacy. So from that section that we saw in the beginning, the atrium now becomes a lot more articulated. The steel flower creates a set of cascading balconies, and the operator wants to use this as who is Meliá, the global Spanish company with very beautiful hotels throughout the world. They want to use this for different types of cafes or a patisserie, a space for a DJ, all overlooking this kind of theater of activity inside this area here. And of course, on the sides, all the retail units have fine dining restaurants and all-day cafe, etc., for servicing the clients. So this atrium has now a very interesting setup, because the building opens out to two main streets. And what we wanted to do is to create a kind of a see-through passage and a walk-through passage through this building, so that the movement through the building happens in what is an indoor plaza that is in the middle of the atrium here, with the steel flower, the Ottoman pots, different other facilities. The reception desks are here, and you can just simply walk through from one side to the other. We felt that this was a very interesting way to enhance the street life and the accessibility of this building. Now, moving to the levels upstairs, you can begin to see here the first level of the atrium. So you can see the undulating balconies and the grafting or the formation of this kind of steel flower inside the middle. Different outlet units for restaurants and cafes and kitchens in this area here. And then through corridors, one can go into the hotel rooms area, which are more private and secluded on all four sides of the building, but accessed from these locations here. There is 5 or 6 different classes of rooms, all ranging from in different sizes, but also in degrees of luxury and facility, as you would expect in such a boutique hotel. And basically, in designing this building, we try to fulfill a kind of a wish of the client, of Mr. Abjad, who wanted this building to be designed inside and out by ZHA. And what a wonderful opportunity we were given to be able to develop this building in this way, and also to be able to develop a lot of bespoke design features here for this particular project. One of which is of course the Ottoman pots that we spoke about before, but also as you do, the reception desks, the walls. We developed the special panels here for highlighting where where the restaurants were. So through these doors, you can always go into, and you can find a very nice restaurant in the back of that. And of course, it all starts from the atrium and this kind of very theatrical sculptural volume. And you can see that different areas of the atrium are activated in different ways. This is the balcony next to the all-day dining. So this was this is the all-day dining for the Meliá Hotel, and of course the view looking up into the Opus from this atrium. So it's very kind of pleasant space to be in. We are looking at the space together with the client to establish a ZHA exhibition to go in and sit in it for a few months. So hopefully when people visit this building after this kind of terrible pandemic is finished, they can also see a series of models and other artifacts produced by ZHA and our sister company, Zaha Hadid Design. And in a way, I think the client also sees this space as a space where it can become a destination for cultural activities and the promotion of local talent and others who can contribute to the life of the Opus and the hotel as it progresses through life. So some of the designs we do get quite technical sometimes. It's not just beautiful things, but we also have to spend a lot of time obviously thinking how these elements can be made. These are the decorative wall panels and the doors that are sitting all around the atrium. The development of the glass balustrades, the edges, and then also in the rooms, we had a series of rooms. I'm going to show 2 or 3 versions today, but this was the Aura room. There is 2 rooms, the Aura and the Vibe, that are smaller, but they always characteristically, the hotel operator wants to have a very nice and luxurious bathroom. So here, at this point, when we got engaged to design the hotel and speaking about the bespoke design that went into all the different areas, we engaged company Noken from Porcelanosa Group to design all the elements of the bathroom here, from the bathtub, the wash basins, the shelving, the showers, the water closet, bidets, etc. And plus, we designed the bed. This is a bespoke bed made especially for the Opus, and of course other elements throughout the interior design of the building, so that we came up with this concept originally. So very clean lines. The rooms had two themes. One was the midnight blue, and the other one was the desert beige. And in this case, we wanted the bed to be nice and lean, sitting in the room, but to also have a kind of a headboard that wasn't lifted up very high, because we wanted to emphasize the board, the decorative board that is sitting in the back. So here we had some hues of desert and some hues of aurora to signify both the desert and the midnight. So this is what the rooms look like today. They have very interesting locations in the rooms, and of course we try to orient the bed looking toward the outside, not just on the TV, but to the whole corner full of glass, and a lot of technology, of course, installed and hidden within these forms. The second type of room is, in this case, slightly bigger. So this is based on the desert scheme, and this is a suite where, in addition to the bathroom and the bedroom area, we also have a much larger living room area and a dining zone. So this is the bed. On the back wall, you can see these kind of paintings, these kind of reliefs called Aurora. The bed sitting in this area here, and of course, the whole. We try to get the whole design to feel as integrated and seamless with the rest of the room as possible. So in addition to the interior design we were doing, we got engaged with the client and several other fabricators to develop, besides the Ottoman pots and the reception areas, but also the decorative walls that you see in gold in the behind the reception. These are some of the drawings that our teams have done to show how these elements work. So I wanted to show you a little bit of the design work that goes into these things when they get developed for fabrication and procurement. The reception desks. and of course how the whole thing comes together. And these little features here are called the pedalinas. The pedalinas are basically seating elements that are distributed throughout the lobby. And in some cases, they are singular standalone elements. And in some cases, they are connected. So they're all based on this idea of sea life, of seashells coming and kind of being proliferated throughout the whole building. So here they are. Also, the color of the carpet changes as you go from top to bottom. So on the bottom, you have more reddish hues. As you go up, it starts becoming more bluish. The bed in the two colors, the dark blue and the light beige. And the arrangement inside the room. So, you know, a comfortable feel, a feel that makes you feel at home. Nothing very very much. All our effort went into making spaces very comfortable. And this is another piece of bespoke furniture design that we've done. It's called a work and play sofa desk. So this is a kind of a dual element, and what we wanted to do was to combine the seating desk, the work desk, together with the sofa over the TV area. So we decided to combine these two elements into a work and play sofa, so it can be you know, the best of both worlds. And in its final condition here, these sofas had been prototyped over a certain amount of time and then finished you know, in this way with the desk in the back. So we think they're very good additions into the whole room. And besides their kind of space-saving characteristics, they're also, I think, quite interestingly designed, but they also feel very comfortable to use. Yeah, aspects of the room again. And then this is supposed to be an animation, but I'm not really sure how it's going to play. So these are some of the designs for the bathroom range. I don't know if I can click this animation.
I'm not seeing it yet, but I can see a black screen saying animation.
Yeah, and now there's supposed to be something starting there, but maybe.
As long as on your screen, we should all see it.
Well, I also don't see anything besides the black screen at the moment. So I'm trying to figure out how to play this. No. Anyway, there's plenty of images here. We can look at that. So these are the different elements of the bathroom range: the mirror, the wash basin, the faucet, the shelf, the under shelf, and also combinations of these two wash basins to create a his and hers type of scenario. This is an actual installation in Porcelano's showroom. So you can see that you know, it was particularly designed for a hotel setup, but we've also looked into certain diminishing of some dimensions so that these objects can also be used in a domestic environment. And there is a few features on this. I don't want to go into too much detail. A few features in terms of digital lighting, demisters that are sitting on the glass, so that when you're taking a shower, the condensate doesn't sit on the glass surface, so you can always see through. Motion activated faucets. We also had another version with a kind of an overflow through these things, so we don't have the faucet at all, and we even went as far with Porcelanosa to think about the digitization, let's say the smart technology that would go behind these elements. But for the purposes of the Opus, we've done these, as the technology wasn't quite ready yet, And of course, a lot of craftsmanship went into making all these different pieces. It took us, to give you an example, it took us about 2 years to bring these products from design to the point where they could be usable in a real environment. And the reason for that is that, you know, obviously one does the design, you begin to look at all the different details, and there is a session where you work with the fabricators and try to figure out all the technical problems, how to bring the piping through, how to fix things, issues about fabrication. Ceramic and porcelain, for example, act in a completely different way than acrylic. So when you're also begin to combine different elements, you can see the lapping details between the ceramic wash basin and the acrylic shelf here. And when they come together, they have to be designed with such a precision that they can work nicely together. And obviously, I don't know if you noticed this, but we have 2 types of bathrooms here, with black bathrooms and also white bathrooms, so in different rooms you have different arrangements. So these are some arrangement drawings. Some of the details, you can see the beauty with which these things have been fabricated. I'm most impressed with the amount of precision that went into the making of these pieces. And you know, they're quite easy to install. They are very regular objects, but obviously rather unusual design. So this is one of the black bathrooms. And here brings us to more or less the end of my presentation. This is, I would like to use this opportunity to say a big thank you to, first of all our team at ZHA. There's about 50 or 60 people who worked on this project throughout the many years, all of whom have contributed something very significant to the design. Our colleagues from ZHD, Woody and Maha, who were the directors, but also Maggie and Karine and the others who've worked so diligently on making and delivering those pieces, but also our external collaborators like Colte Facades. Agnes Colte is a fantastic facade engineer, and she's done the utmost to make sure that this building is a success. PSBG and PG&E, our local architects and structural engineers who made this a reality. HPA and Illuminate as interior designers have done quite a lot of work trying to realize this project, and the lighting design, which is due to the efforts of Illuminate. Clark Samadin, with whom I've worked with for many years, PMK, MediaTek, Bishop Design, who've done the all-day dining. And also the main contractor, Brookfield Multiplex, who's done a very incredible job in bringing this project together, both as a shell and core, and the facade work here. Of course, this is all they are doing together with Omniat, who have been actively kind of managing this project, and also the hotel operator Melia, who brought a lot of inspiration with them about the use of this building for the many years to come. I would like to leave you with a couple of images from Lorian's photography, from Lorian, who has a very interesting way of looking at things, and we like to invite him to photograph some of our projects when they are finished. You know, the object of this whole exercise, which you know, we're very happy that now it stands respectfully and respectably in the urban fabric in Dubai. Okay, and that's it from me.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christos. That's brilliant. And I think it's just great to see this building in such detail and really understand the process you and the team went through to get there. We have some questions that have come in, and we're going to have a couple asked directly to you. Do you have another 20 minutes or so for questions?
Yeah, of course. I'm here for you today.
Okay. I'm going to start with one myself, which is how do you and the ZHA as a practice approach your sort of an international practice, internationally renowned, with your main studio in London and branches around the world, as I understand. But when you have a project in the Middle East, what do you do differently to work in the Middle East, or how do you approach there in the same way? Do you do things differently for Asia and America now that you're working globally? How do you adjust your working processes to handle these different regions?
Well, different regions still have different peculiarities. So I think your question is very good in that way, because I would like to discuss a little bit what are the peculiarities themselves. First of all, the urban environment. Second of all is the cultural give and take between clients, the engineers, and so on. Things in China are very much different than what they are in the Middle East, what they are in Europe, as you know. And how do we manage this? First of all, the designs we do try to the degree that is possible, and we are all committed to the purpose of sustainability. So we are learning with this process, and we try to bring in two things. First of all, the context, and one lesson that we've learned working with Zaha for many years is that the context is not only the physical, visible context that surrounds this building, but it's also the culture, it's also the language, it's also the history, it's also certain events, and I think that part of context, the environment, but then also having the possibility to discuss with the people with whom we are working. It's very important to have lots of local staff and colleagues that are able to be close to them, to speak to them, and we of course all travel all the time. So we have the regional offices, we have the people who are stationed in these places, and also us from London traveling and trying to serve these projects and these clients as we go.
Okay, Aloia, you want to come?
Yes. All right.
Shall we go to Franzita's question and bring her to video?
Yep.
I have to find her on the list. I can see it.
I think it's in the
Franzita. You found it?
I have quite a few people today here. Huh?
Yeah.
I found it. Did you find her in the list?
Yeah, I'm promoted panelist now. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Franzita. You should be appearing on video soon to ask your question about the construction to Christos. Yeah. And you can just give a brief introduction of yourself and where you are. It would be nice as well. I can see.
Hello.
Hi, Franzita. Hi. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Mr. Christos. Hi, Olivia. And hi.
Hi.
I wanted to ask you, Mr. Christos, during the entire construction phase of the project, what were the main challenges you had interfacing with the various departments that you had on the team? For example, structural interfacing, or maybe with the main contractor, or even along with the authorities that we have in Dubai. So how was that challenge resolved during the construction stages, and especially with authorities for such a different and distinct building when it comes to civil defense especially?
Well, in many ways, this building was embraced by the authorities from the beginning. There are certain elements that are, of course, unusual, and I think without them accepting these and embracing this uniqueness, it would not be possible. So, of course, I think what also happened is that there is Dubai is one of those places where you can't really do certain things that are maybe not so possible or usual in other places. But how did we manage the challenges? I think there's many challenges I can think of, which were overcome with sensible arguments and conversation, and of course close collaboration with the client and working with them to help them to overcome a lot of these points. In many cases, in a way, our design propositions were in many cases, especially in TCOM and so on, were presented by Omnia to TCOM. So we had the support of the local engineering groups and BSPG, who are the local architects, but also the client themselves, who are always very supportive of what we were doing.
Yeah, my reason for asking this question is mainly because with the way and structure of the authority system in Dubai, it's very rigid, and what you've done with the Opus has sort of opened their perspective towards new architecture in the country, which you're seeing around in many different places nowadays. So this is kind of breaking the boundaries themselves over there. So that's why I wanted to ask you this.
Well, when I was speaking earlier about this idea of promoting a kind of a three-dimensional urbanism, the implications, the architectural implications of an element like the bridge, etc., are things that we've been discussing, I think, a year or two ago in the conference, the CDBUH conference in a hotel nearby here, actually. And a lot of people, especially in Dubai, have been looking into all of these different things, and I feel that there is a constant curiosity and a desire to push things forward. So personally, yes, there is a certain rigidity, but I also think that there is a certain amount of opportunity as well to be able to produce good architecture. And as architects, I think, and especially as architects, I think we have this obligation to keep pushing things forward, even by a little bit every time.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Professor, your mic is muted.
Hi there, sorry for the. We're going to move to another question from Matan. I can promote him up to the panel, but it's covering the general theme that comes up as an approach to massing design. We saw in your plans, Christos, that there's 2 cores in this building, and it'd be interesting to know about the start of the process when you had the site. Did you start looking at this as 1 building, 2 buildings? It's now, do you see it as 2 buildings joined together or 1 building? We're going to bring Matan, who's a high school student, up to ask his question.
Okay.
But yes, he was asking about the void and the origin of that. Okay.
Is he coming online?
He should be. Yeah.
There Matan. He is. Hello, Matan.
First of all, thank you for opening this presentation free to the public. As I know, as a high school student, this is really helpful just to get to know a bit more about architecture. So my question is, you've pretty much covered quite a bit of it, but just as much as the design is really expressive and unique, looking at the idea of form and creating the void, in my criticism, it could appear not as practical as such, because presumably it's quite costly to create that void, and it doesn't take advantage of a potential space for even more apartments or offices. And I was just wondering, how does the practicality of a building play a role in your design? It's quite a loaded question, but.
Okay, well, I'll tell you one thing. More is not always better. Mm-hmm. So we didn't really want to put more apartments there. Anyway, you have to remember what we were discussing earlier, that I don't know if you can see my screen here, but originally what we're supposed to do is to put 1 tower here that was actually going another 15 floors up, or 10, I don't remember, maybe 10. And then another floor here, which was supposed to go another 30 floors up. Instead, what we did was we took some of those floors out because we made two decisions at that point, and this is what we proposed to the client. One, you don't need to go high and compete with all the other high-rise buildings in the place because that is anyway futile. But what you can try to do is you can try to do something beautiful. So don't compete on height, compete on elegance, on beauty, on all those other qualities that make something look good. So that's what we set up doing. Now you're raising a second point, the efficiency or the mass. The void is not, I mean, in technical terms, right? Not in aesthetic terms, but in technical terms, the void is that space between the two towers. So what we've done was we created this kind of relationship of the bulging of one tower and the other to create a sense where you don't look at those two towers as individual buildings anymore, but you begin to see a new reality through them. And I think that is the focus that we should have here, in the sense that what was supposed to be empty, dead space, maybe even leftover space, as you have in a lot of these things here, right? There's a lot of leftover spaces because these buildings are meant to be complete in themselves. So they create a lot of odd spaces in between them. But here, what you see is that the space in between and the space of the two buildings is looked at once. And therefore, the end result is something that allows you to appreciate the totality, not only of the solid, but also of the void that comes there. And I think that is the contrast that we wanted to bring through.
Thank you for your time. Other than the aesthetic, is a ventilation reason as such for having that particular design? Surely there's something related to that. Or is it
there's not a ventilation reason, but as I said in the beginning, there's a visual reason. Because now this building has 8 elevations, so it has the 4 external ones, but it also has 2 on the side, and it has on the bridges inside another one, and it has also one view or one elevation that is looking from the roof, from the atrium out through the roof. So the way you appreciate this building is very much 3-dimensional now, and not just as a cardboard box where you look at it only from the outside.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mata. Yeah, and
Thank you, Mata.
You've created that lobby with the view looking up sort of into the building by having the void there. And the nature, did the plot change at all from the start? Or was it, because sometimes in Dubai that's common where a site changes during design stage quite a lot. Or was it fixed and you were sort of studying the masking implications of how to get usable space onto the site?
Yes, no, the site was fixed from the beginning. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other?
Yeah, we're picking a few questions. Now, who's the next one? I think.
Yusuf. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Yusuf, we're going to promote you up to ask your question about the design development process. Okay. Okay, Yusuf is now a panelist and can appear soon. Yusuf, hello. I think you need to unmute.
Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Sorry, I'm sitting against the window and my face is coming very dark. Actually, first of all, thank you very much, Christos, for such a lovely presentation. I always admire Zaha Hadid architecture, the way she used to do a very, very bold design, And I always wondering that, in this era, the way the curves, the way the shapes that your practice develop is very amazing. And I was just wondering, what is the process that such unique designs comes up in a 3-dimensional way, So is it from the freehand sketching you start, or you use any softwares or what?
Well, of course, over the years, we've developed a very rich and diverse repertoire of ideas. And you know, every time we are engaged with a project or a problem or anything, we develop ideas about how architecture can be. And many times, as I was showing you earlier with the bridge in Abu Dhabi, one idea leads to the next and the next and the next. So yes, it's the sketching, and Zaha used to sketch quite a lot. And I think the sketching now happens not only as a hand and pencil exercise, but also now on the computer quite a lot as well. Mm-hmm. So these are all models in a way. If you think about them, all our buildings have some sort of, and I don't want to mystify it very, very much, but I want to say that there is a kind of a mathematical background to them. We're interested in those conditions. For example, here the binary contrast between the solid and the void is an interesting proposition because it's not exactly black and white. It's something and something else. They both have a substance, but so the mathematically are interesting, these projects, and also philosophically, how do they happen? How does the design happens? Well, first of all, there is the idea that we chase, and the second thing is how to make that idea happen. I think that happens with a lot of sketching, a lot of tests, predominantly a lot of experimentation, a lot of accumulated experimentation over years and years of many people, that we now have a certain sense of what works and what doesn't. And of course, with that experimental sense, we also developed quite a lot of experience. I mean, I don't want to say anything more than over the years with all these buildings that we've built, we've accumulated a significant and unusual type of experience in delivering projects like this. We know how to make these things happen now. And in meeting clients across the world, we try to tell them that, these things are possible, and with good management and with good design, you can achieve a lot of things. So yes, you start from a sketch. I used to lecture in the past about going from imagination to reality, and I still think that is a valid. And that is a valid point, that it is a case of mind over matter in many cases, but the transition from one world to the other is very painful, and that kind of pain is a testament in the achievement in the end. But I do think it's a combination of all of those things. So it's a lot of technicality, and a lot of times I feel that we are grinding a stone, and you have to keep pushing step by step, stage by stage to keep things moving forward. But that's what it's about. Yeah, there's no shortcuts.
Yeah. Actually, I'm based in Dubai, and I'm in London nowadays. So I was wondering, is it possible to visit your office sometime and see some of the design?
Yeah, of course. Of course, we have a very nice gallery downstairs on the ground floor in our Cotswold Road offices. That's usually full of exhibits and pieces that we've designed and so on. So yes, of course, it's open and it's for the public.
I see. Okay, fine. Thank you. Is there any timings there, or?
Well, at the moment we are all in the lockdown. So if I show you the office now, I'm the only person here. Everybody's working from home. But in good time, and we hope that by October time, September, October maybe, we will be coming back a little bit more often. But if you are in London and if you want to take a route, I can arrange for someone to come and show you around. Bring your mask and your gloves and come along.
Oh, I will bring my gloves as well.
Yes.
So it will be a great, really, it will make my visit worth if it is possible, So how do I contact somebody, or?
Yeah, I mean, if we can give you my email later on, or I can give you the reception number, and they can they can organize it for you.
Yeah, if you can give it to me now, I can write it if it's possible.
Yusuf,
Sorry.
Maybe
Sorry,
we can
so I'll be the mediator here. You can, if you email the email that's used this event, we'll connect you with Christos.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
a good idea.
Thank you very much. Thank
There's
you.
still a few
Thank you.
hundred. I'm not giving Christos's email to hundreds of people without permission.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much.
But yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
I understand there is a very public gallery of Zaha's work in London, which anybody can visit when there's a normal time, obviously. Another question that's come up actually is the building itself, the Opus. My understanding is essentially finished, and if it wasn't for the pandemic, would be open as operating the hotel. Do you know, is it open yet? Is it expected to open soon? And when the public can certainly visit the lobby and the normal public parts of a hotel?
I am told with every caution that it will open in September, maybe first week or second week of September. But obviously, with the way things are going, we all don't know, right? But they're making efforts to start it up by then and open it up to guests again.
Yeah, great. Yes, and I mentioned at the start, we're hoping to have a tour with somebody, yourself or somebody from ZHA, when they're in Dubai, to get a bit more detailed tour for a group of people around.
Of course, we can arrange that. Yeah.
And as I mentioned, the Architecture Festival in Design District, the project's featured there as well, so that we'll see some drawings and a model, I believe.
Exactly.
Okay, I think we have one more question, Aloia.
Yeah, from I think she should be ready now. Right now.
Can you promote her? Would you need to try to do it?
Yeah, I think you need to promote.
Okay. Oh.
Hendrinata. I don't know whether it's.
I think she's a graduate. She wants to ask about the life the tough life of an architect, and she has a quote from Zaha. Okay, I've promoted her to panelist. And so Christos, lots of messages coming saying thank you very much. Beautiful building. Da, da, da.
Thank you to everybody.
Thank you. And thank you for your time for this and preparing it all.
Thank you.
I know it's great that people from all around the world have been able to come together and see it. Okay, is he okay? Yeah, okay. Hi, Hendrinata.
Oh, hi.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Can you
Hi.
hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. So my question is, first of all, I am a fresh graduate, and my obstacle from graduating from the university is that I don't know where to start. And when I want to start, it's like there's some burden because like I cannot design that well. So can you give us the fresh graduate the insight of what should we do, or when to start, or where to start for being an architect, to be a professional architect? Thank you.
Okay. Can you tell us where are you based?
I am from Indonesia.
Okay.
Oh.
At the Southeast Asia.
And you've just graduated in Indonesia?
Yep, that's right.
This summer?
Yeah.
Yes. It was
I graduated last year.
Last year, okay. Christos, do you have any tips for young graduating architects how to make the start in the profession?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I can only say on my own experiences, but I do, and I'm not sure it's the same for everybody. But I would say that the best way to start is to keep your eyes, but more importantly, your mind open. Try to see and to understand the world and to see what lies behind things sometimes. Work hard and don't regret working hard, and really, really stick with it, because I think in the end, as I was saying before, I think it's only perseverance that pays. I always keep in my mind a quote, many quotes from Zaha and one from Buckminster Fuller, who said that the only way to achieve something is to commit to it. And when you commit to it, it just comes to you. So if you stay with it for a long time, I think you manage to get to your task. So I think that everybody has something to offer, without exception. Everybody has something to offer, and I think, you know, one should try to bring that part of themselves and share it with everybody, so that we can all enjoy the richness of you know, of humanity. So I do think that you know, in the beginning things may not seem very clear and whatever else, but trust the process that I think it will take you where you have to be, you know, and if you stick with it and if you keep doing what you want to do, I think everything will be well.
Okay. Yeah, we had actually an online webinar was about connecting graduates and students with practitioners, and a lot of these issues came up. It's on the RIBA website, actually, the recording. And don't remember, architecture is a very broad profession. There's many routes into and through it. And I think people, they tend to find their niches, some that are very technical, some are very creative, some find they're good at management or very good on, you know, being on site is quite a different kind of skill set than being a competition or concept designer. And I think when people graduate, it sometimes takes a bit of time to find the right route into the profession and role.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think the main thing is be open-minded, and obviously networking is also very important. Talk to people, find out what's going on, and keep looking for opportunities.
And keep learning. I mean, you have a lot to learn during practice, and especially the first few years of practice is where you learn a lot of tricks of the trade, things that you don't learn in uni, for example. So I think it's important to practice. It's important to learn how things are done, and to really build that kind of craftsmanship aspect of the architect, whether as a modeling or as a digital designer or as a technician or a draftsman. I think you need to kind of learn and harness those skills, because this is your language now, right? This is the way you communicate with the world. So you've got to learn to use the language well.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So we thought you were a lady from having an A at the end. Sorry for that assumption and miscalling at the start. Okay. There's also been some questions, some technical questions, like about the glass and how things like heating and cooling, solar gain was studied. Is there anything you can add for that? Right, Christos?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm summarizing a few questions that are about the glass, solar gain, and cooling systems. I imagine the various studies and the specification were done around the subject. Is there anything you can say about the glass and facade?
I can say from the things that I actually remember from, because it was quite a bit of time since we've done this, but obviously a lot of the building is dependent on its internal cooling system, and an all glass building, especially in a place like Dubai, demands high insulating glass with low thermal transmission, but at the same time we wanted to have something not very unusual perhaps, but we also wanted to have quite a good transparency and visibility around. So we didn't want to use shaded glass, for example, except in the area of the void. But we did use glass with relatively low U values to have a good degree of insulation on the glass itself. I mean, I can get probably someone else to speak about this a lot more, because I have colleagues who've worked on this more dedicatedly, and they can answer more this question.
Okay. I think we may have one more question, and then we'll wrap up. Okay. Hello, hang on a second. Is it Maggie Han? Maggie, I hope you're still there. Which is you have a question about really generally building in Dubai and how Opus might help influence because the future of Dubai, the always evolving urban landscape of Dubai. Okay, and I think we'll make this the last question. Although if any, we'll try answer some more by typing. If anyone wants to stay around, there's a question there. And we can follow up with email after as well. But we've tried to pick up some of the main questions that have come in. Okay. Hi, Maggie, are you there?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Christos. So I was actually a previous architect graduate, but now I just changed my career. So unfortunately, I was not up to the topic, but still I have enthusiastic in architecture, and especially Zaha Hadid has been influencing a lot during my study curve. So this question is actually because I just landed in Dubai for a very short time, 2 years. And I see how fast moving Dubai, the city itself is. So I noticed that actually Business Bay Area was quite active or energetic previously. However, with the time being, that area has been quite differently from before. And also we see in the entire building environment, we see the context of Dubai with so many Damak or Imar building around it, like boxes or blocks. We just try to understand what was the initial objective when we try to conceptually design this building in this location, and how would it impact in the future or make an impact of these areas and get more, inject more energy to the area.
Yes.
Christos, can I just answer a little bit first? Can give you time to prepare.
Sure.
I want to pass on my own. As someone that's lived in Dubai for 9 years, it's the one thing I really like about your building is Business Bay. I find is a problem on the urban scale, in that most of the buildings have a big podium for car park at the bottom, and then the tower on top, and they do look like they could be placed anywhere. But the car parking podium really kind of kills the street level. But I see you've basically avoided all that and brought the building down to the street level.
Yes.
And if there's one thing I'd hope the others would copy is that, because that's a problem in a lot of Dubai, that just you have basic car park at city level, and then you get these isolated little tower islands of living. That's my own take on it, and I hope other buildings would follow this. Christos?
No, I agree with you. And as you remember, I also spoke about this a little bit too. We always felt from the beginning that the streetscape in Dubai was always underestimated. And it was underestimated probably because of the high temperatures and everything else. But at the same time, I don't think we should miss the chances to make livable public spaces. What I think happened is that, as with any master plan, it gets tested all of the time, and amended and optimized and changed. And I think our building was one of those things where, somebody said, well, hold on a second, maybe the way the relationship between the building, the podium, and the street shouldn't always and only be like this, but there is different things you can do. And I think our building has done its part to change this perception. And I think now, I look at it from my recent trips to Dubai, that I see that there has been a change of heart in the way the streetscape is being dealt with. And of course, there's many different developers in Dubai. Each one does what they think is best. But I've seen also some very interesting examples with projects that are much more low-rise now, that they have much more accessible ground floor spaces. And it's not as much as I think it should be, but I think it has been improving in the last few years. And I don't mean 1 or 2, but I mean 5 or 7 years. There's been an improvement. I don't know if you agree, Andy, but I've seen quite a few interesting projects in Dubai now that, what are they called, these guys? I think they're called Miras. They've
Yes.
done some interesting set of projects that are really dealing with the idea of
Streets, yeah.
of the street and the public space, don't they?
Yeah, it's a City Walk, which just kind of came into being the last 5 or 6 years as a kind of, if you don't know Dubai well, like a mid-rise, mainly residential area of some retail. But yeah, that has, the parking is kept hidden there, and they're really trying to create streetscape. There is the problem of the car in Dubai and the roads. They really carve up the city. But yeah, Miras they had the beach in JBR as well. They tried to make, and it's been very successful, a pedestrianized beachfront with cafes, restaurants. Because I think there's a lot of the criticisms I hear from people from other countries when they come to Dubai is that, they can't walk anywhere. And the weather is very good at least half the year and walkable. But there's only really a few parts of the old town that have that kind of urban walkable feel, and the roads and the parking kind of dominate the city. But yeah, there has been some movement through some Miras projects and other ones to try and create that, whether it's making more usable indoor spaces or just little localized walkable areas. Design districts, another one, are actually trying to create a streetscape that becomes active in when there's events there and things.
Yes, exactly. And we've been looking at this in a pre-pandemic and a post-pandemic kind of environment. And of course, we are all pro livability, having access to the street, the public spaces. And, in our projects, we always try to make one public space where one should not have been, or at least nobody asked for it. We try to bring that level of civic facility and public urbanism in our projects. I think that's very important. I hope that we will continue in this direction. I really feel strongly about it. I do support and applaud all of these projects that are like the ones that Andy was just speaking about, which are really dealing with the ground condition on projects. And I also hope that in this post-pandemic period, and all the technology that is about to become real. I don't know if you know, but a lot of technologies, green technologies, are now being prepared to be unleashed into the world. And it's not just green vehicles, but it's also a lot of driverless mobility and other systems that are going to change radically the way our cities work. But in this post-pandemic period, what I would like to see not happen most is that we don't all become itemized and create a kind of a 2-meter distance between us and everybody else. I like that kind of closer proximity. I like the scenario of what the street offers. The market, the place where you go meet people, or on the beach or the promenades. I like what these parts of the cities offer. And I think we should continue to support these kinds of approaches and promote them. So those pre-COVID projects that we had and our sensibilities about livability, about shaded spaces, about things that are working well with the environment, I think should continue more and more. And in that sense, I think it is a case of a small step at a time, but I think we need to keep making those.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I think it's changed a lot of things, but the pandemic issue comes up a lot. I mean, it takes years to make a building, and normally pandemics don't last more than a year or two. So it is rethinking a building should be thinking about afterwards and really valuing the spaces that you have,
Yes.
whether it's home or the street, and making better quality of it. And you mentioned sustainability as well. I know a lot of recent projects like the stadium in the UK and a tower recently published. There's quite a strong emphasis on sustainability from ZHA now. Is that something you're finding all over the world?
Yes. I think it's everybody's obligation, and maybe it took us a little bit of time to fall into this route, but we do feel we do feel very strongly about it, and we try to expand both our knowledge base and also the way to bring technology and ecology together in a kind of a sustainable way. I do think, and we've been speaking about this with people very recently quite a lot, we do think that those two aspects of or these two human approaches, thinking and methods, are not necessarily in contrast with one another, and I think we can make them confluent with a little bit of effort. And this is what I'm hoping to also achieve in the next few years.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you very much. It'd be interesting actually to maybe your BIA project is another very famous one in the UAE, and obviously the Saudi building as well. It'd be great if maybe next year sometime we could have something similar.
I didn't speak a lot about our BIA project today because I wanted to give it its full space. I did have a slide, and then last night I decided not to show much about it. But it's a great building. It's a great little building. It does a lot to show where we are going next with our approaches, and I hope maybe you will have a chance to invite someone to come and speak about it soon.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can arrange that. It will be ready next year.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. No, the great thing with webinars and things is, if there hadn't been a pandemic, we would have done this probably in Dubai. We'd try and get you to come to a conference room in a university hotel or something, and present. That we'd only be able to get maybe 30, 40 people to come. You'd have to travel and park, and so it's quite an efficient way to use your time and reach a wide audience. So
absolutely, no, I agree.
Come out.
Definitely,
and you don't have to be within driving distance to attend. Anybody can just log in and see. I find that very interesting.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, right. Thank you very much. Thank you to Aloia also for helping moderate in the background with me, and hope to see you in Dubai or London in the future, Christos. We've only met online a few times, and yeah, thank you once again for your time and showing us a great project, and we'll keep in touch for future.
Okay, thank you for organizing this, Andy and Aloia. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming to see us today. I do hope to meet you all, and either in London or in Dubai. But it's going to be one of the first destinations that I come and visit as well, because I also want to take a kind of a closing look on this project before it goes out to the public. So
everyone's now really nice. I think everyone's now missing a kind of physical events, even if it's just a sort of chat.
Exactly. But since we have this facility, whenever there is a chance to talk about something very interesting, then do let me know, and we're happy to have an open conversation.
Yeah, we maybe just have there's a restaurant and cafe in the hotel, so which is public, I assume, so we can have an open meeting there one day.
I look forward to it. Yeah. Okay, so until then, thank you very much, everybody.
All
right, all the best. Bye-bye. Bye.